to talk about ancestral healing and clearing your energy field through the perceptual lens of a multidimensional chakra scan that I just did for a client. And I'm going to give a heads up before we get into it that these things are going to be kind of heavy. And I made sure to ask her, like, hey, is this okay? And she said, yes, she would love to help other people through her scan. She also asked about manifesting a relationship in the 3D. So we're going to get into that as well. So when I go into her field, there was a priestess that came forward and she asked me to go down into the lower realms with her. And in shamanism, the lower world is where you meet with your ancestors and do generational trauma clearing. There's also a lot of guides that you can meet in there that are very of the earth. Down there was a grandmother energy that came forward, and after I sent her scan to her, she told me that was her Jamaican grandmother. And I said, oh, nice. And so she was talking to me and she told me to lay down next to this fire and she was going to take me on a journey, and she touched my forehead, and then all of a sudden I went through multitudes of timelines of my client and tons of oppressiveness just over and over and over and over again from the hands of other people. And my client in this lifetime was feeling that all the way down to her DNA. Like she had been carrying a lot of just weight, heaviness, not physical weight, but energetic weight. And the grandmother energy was telling me that's because she perceives Akasha depths within herself like so deeply that she's feeling the pain of generations like over and over and over and over again. Sometimes there's some guilt that can come with that too, of like, oh, I've got to be the one that does all of this ancestral and generational trauma healing. And that can be a very heavy weight to bear. Because of kind of that guilt, the grandmother energy was, or the grandmother was saying that her healing herself was healing them. It doesn't have to be like such active soul depth healing of trying to find all of these ancestors and work through the things. She said that they are all watching her and that they are so incredibly proud. Now, a lot of these ancestors have moved on to their next incarnations, but what I'm perceiving is soul fragments. So these are things that were not healed in their timeline. So they're still a part of their soul that is tied to my client's soul, and she is healing them through simply healing herself, going through and having these consciousness jumps and releasing trauma and PTSD and healing her inner children and showing up in her best capacity. That is healing them. Just like empaths and lightworkers sometimes hold this guilt about them of like, oh, I need to be doing these certain things to help the collective. You healing you has major ripple effects out into the collective, into your communities. As you're showing up in a more healed capacity, shining your light, experiencing joy and magic and fun and laughter because you shed all of those very intensive layers, everybody you come in contact with is going to be a changed person. Even some of her ancestors that had not done such great things in their incarnation were looking at her as her being the higher self to them. She was helping them understand lessons and things that they had gone through karmically so that they can release that and integrate back into their own souls by releasing those karmic wound lessons that they never got to work through in their incarnations. And then I asked her grandma about her partnership that she wanted in this incarnation, and she pulled this like plant out of her chest, and it kind of looked like my plant right here, actually. Almost like a tree plant. And she said, okay, the plant was a little bit wilted over and not representative of my client necessarily needing to heal a bunch of things, but that she's just going through a big transformational phase in her own life and recalibrating herself and her energy field and her truths and values and beliefs and just doing this deep cellular healing on her journey. And she said, you need to be a strong plant and have another strong plant with you, because if you have two sick plants together, they are going to make each other sicker. So representative of her and a future partner. Now, you can receive a lot of healing from a partner, but that partner needs to be on their own growth evolution journey, making forward movement and healing the things that they need to be healing. Okay. So she was saying that she was currently working on getting stronger herself so that she could be a good vibrational frequency match to a partner that is going to come in. And then she was saying, this is something that I talk about with my clients, okay, personifying your next higher self. That's actually how you make the quantum shift. You have to have a clear picture of the identity that you're trying to become. And she said that you can do that with a partner as well. So you can get out a sheet of paper and write down all the traits that you want in another person. And then you can actually go in meditation and speak with that person, because that person is just another reflection of you, and you can actually materialize somebody working on their stuff and who is going to be a great match for you. And it amplifies it if you're going in with that list in mind of, hey, these are things that I expect and that I deserve. Let me go ahead and preemptively put that out into the cosmos, directed towards my person that I want to be with, or persons that I want to be with. It is going to ping within them, oh, this is the things that I need to be working on to be a vibrational frequency match to my partner. And then I asked the grandmother if there was any other timelines that I could assist her with, and this is going to be kind of triggering because it involves someone being unalived in a different timeline, so I just want to give a heads up if that's going to be triggering for you, so you can stop before we move forward. So I go into a swamp, and there's a man in a boat, and he's fishing, and there was an alligator that was watching him like over in the swamp, and the house that he was living in was very isolated away from people. And I was talking to his higher self, and he said that because he experienced so much trauma and abuse in childhood that he never got to heal from that, and ended up isolating himself away from people, and then just kind of continuously went downhill and was holding a lot of like resentment and just hurt from all the trauma. What ended up happening was the alligator ended up pushing his boat over and eating him. And so he had a lot of unresolved things that happened in that timeline. As I was talking, a little boy ran up to me and grabbed me and was like crying. And I realized it was his inner child from further back in that timeline. And I said, hey, you're safe. You're protected. I've got you, you're loved. I said, let's go somewhere where you feel safer, because he was showing me all the experience that happened to him when he was a little boy. And so I ended up taking him to the fairy kingdom and I actually met a different timeline version of my client there who was a fairy, and we were all in a tree house together, and we were comforting him and telling him that he could stay here in this space. And this fairy version was going to be a guardian of him. And he was like, well, who's going to take care of me? And she said, we all are. We're all a community. That's what you needed when you were a child and when you were an adult. So this is going to give you that deep soul healing. And there's plenty of animals and creatures and beings and friends that you're going to make here in this space. We released him from that energetic timestamp he was in. And as I was talking to her fairy version, who is super beautiful, she said that my client has the gift of influencing people's moods, but like not in a manipulative way, but in a way that's, if somebody has not experienced joy or magic or fun or whimsy or safety, she can actually project that out of her auric field and envelop another person in it. And just being in her presence was going to bring tons of healing to other people. And I said the flip side to that, the negative side to that, is if you don't know how to harness those gifts, that's how you attract narcissists and energy vampires, because they can feel that within you subconsciously and they're attracted to you. So you have to learn how to regulate your auric field and utilize your gifts for people that are having equal energy exchanges with you. She also had light language that she was projecting out of her body. It was like these golden scroll letters, and they were whizzing around me and whizzing around the little boy, and I just felt so warm and like fuzzy, and it was such like an inviting feeling. And I was like, oh, what a beautiful gift to be able to offer to other people. She was saying that my client has only barely tasted what that gift is, so she was going to help mentor her. So I would love to hear in the comments if any part of her story resonated with you or is going to help you on your journey. And if you would like your own multidimensional chakra scan so you can understand yourself at deeper levels, you can go to my profile and click, or check the comments or the description box below.